I will marry a woman with a grain of corn. Nothing is hard for me to do, my friend. Tortoise bragged to his friend Akadi. Long time ago, in the days when humans and animals lived in harmony, there lived a tortoise named Isinta Abohinkota. Translated as small head is not a curse, but he was popularly called Isinta for short by the villagers. This name was given to Isinta as naturally a tortoise has a small head. But Isinta's small head isn't the size of his wisdom. Isinta was well known in the entire village for his wise and crafty acts. He has a reputation for tricking other animals and even humans and solving problems in the village. You must have heard the story of how he tricked the birds and went to feast with them up in the sky. And when they got there, he took the name all of you, which meant he had to eat the food for all. Another big story all over the village was how he tricked the big elephant and won him over during a fight. Isinta has also tricked the dog in a race and won. Imagine slow tortoise winning a race. The story of Isinta's crafty exploits goes on and on. Thus his name, a small head, isn't a curse. Everyone knew Isinta and his exploit and would hardly doubt him when he promised to do something, no matter how ridiculous it was. But this time, he had challenged his friend Akaji in a bet. He said he would marry a human wife with a grain of corn. Isinta, I know that this your wisdom. You may even make the lion eat grass. Akaji says, but my friend, how on earth will you marry a human wife with a grain of corn? Is it juju? Akaji inquired amidst laughter and wonder. Akaji, I should call you Isiji because it seems like your head is filled with the yam you ate all day, Isinta stated. Don't you know me? Akaji, put your ancestral farmland into this bed and I will come home with a wife. Not just a wife, but a human wife in a few market days, Isinta bragged. Akaji in amusement agreed. He found Isinta's boast ridiculous. He knows about his friend's exploits. But which human father in his right mind would offer his daughter to Tortoise in exchange for a grain of corn? That can't happen, he thought to himself. Once Akaji agreed to the bet, Isinta called the entire village and informed them of his bet with Akaji, so that if he wins the bet, the villagers will bear him witness. That way, he can collect Akaji's ancestral farmland without an excuse. The villagers, upon hearing this, burst out laughing and saying, because Isinta has managed to fool some people, he now sees himself as a god or a magician. We are in this village. Let's see him take a human wife with a grain of corn. Isinta was not discouraged. The wise tortoise knew what he was capable of, and he promised to shock them all. He packed his bag and left. Isinta planned to travel far away from his village. Holding his grain of corn, he started his journey and walked for 4 market days till he arrived in a small village inhabited by humans called Umamar. He inquired about the village and found out that, just as the name implies, the people of Umamar are very kind and compassionate people. So he concluded that this is the perfect village to carry out his exploit. Isinta entered the village and was warmly welcomed by the villagers. He observed the entire village, and when it was night time, he decided to beg for shelter. He looks around and finds the house of a man who owns a poultry. He begs him to shelter him for the night, as he is a traveler who has nowhere to spend the night. Because the people are so kind, they let him in and even gave him a room. But Isinta refuses to take the room, saying, "My chief won't allow me to inconvenience your kind family this much. I will sleep in the poultry farm, so I won't disturb your family. You've been so kind to me." Isinta expressed, pretending to be honest. The family expressed how pleased they are to have him over, so they wouldn't mind giving him a room. But Isinta insisted, so they let him sleep in the poultry farm. Isinta is sleeping in the farm not because he genuinely wants to, but rather he has another agenda in mind. That night, he carried his grain of corn and put it in the mouth of one of the chicken in the poultry. The next morning, Isinta wakes up yelling at the top of his voice, "My grain of corn! My corn! It is the only inheritance my poor father left for me. So will I get my corn back?" The family immediately woke up upon hearing the tortoise scream. They inquired what happened, and the tortoise started wailing. He explains that he came with a grain of corn, which his late father gave him as an inheritance. But he woke up only to see that one of the chicken has swallowed his corn. Now he is finished as he has no inheritance. The family was confused and felt so sorry for what had happened to Isinta. Isinta keeps on crying as he explains that he plans to settle down, plants the grain of corn, and use it to start a life in the new town. Now all hope is gone. The head of the family inquires from Isinta what he can do to compensate him, and amidst his pretentious tears, he asks for one of the family's big fat chicken. The family, out of guilt, grants his request and gives him the chicken. Unknown to them, the tortoise just wanted their chicken from the beginning. Isinta left their house satisfied with a successful scheme. Isinta is not done, so he approaches the next house that same night. This time, it was a house with a pen of goats. The same way he approached the first family, Isinta pleads with the second family to let him spend the night with his chicken. They offer him a room, but he insists on staying in the goat's pen with his chicken. He claims his chicken is his inheritance from his father, and he treats the chicken as his own blood, so he can't bear for them to be separated and wouldn't want the chicken to disturb them inside the house. The head of the family sees reason with Isinta and lets him sleep in the goat's pen. That night, while everyone was sleeping, Isinta quietly strangles the chicken and puts the chicken under the body of one of the big goats in the pen. The next morning, Isinta started screaming and crying again, shouting, "My chicken, oh, my chicken! He was like a brother to me. Now your goat have killed my chicken." The family rushed out and were shocked to see Isinta's chicken dead. They expressed remorse over the death of his chicken, which was allegedly killed by their goat. They felt so sorry and begged the tortoise to stop crying and asked him what they can do to compensate him. Isinta smiled mischievously on the inside while pretending to cry. He says, "Nothing can replace my dear chicken, which I took as my own blood. He has been with me since I was a child. It's so difficult to let him go. But one of your big goats can console me as I mourn the loss of my dear chicken," Isinta said pretentiously. The family pitied him and gave him the biggest goats in their pen. Isinta has yet again accomplished his mission. The mischievous Isinta moves on to his next victim. This time, a family with a herd of cattle. He In the same way, Isinta begs the third family to let him sleep in their house. As usual, he pretended to be very close to the animal and begs to sleep outside the house with the goat. They agreed to let him sleep in his cattle's range with his goat. In the middle of the night, he carried out the same act, and the next morning, he let out a loud cry, claiming the cow must have killed the goat with their big weight and dangerous hovers. His plan works yet again, and he is giving a cow in return for his goat that was killed. Now, Isinta with the cow in his possession knows he needs something substantial to get his human wife. Animals may not work anymore, so he sought out another plan, and he comes up with a new plan. Isinta inquires about the mortuary in the village and finally finds one close to a thick forest. He thought to himself, this mortuary that is located far away from the main village is a good advantage for me. He smiles to himself mischievous. So Isinta visited the mortuary at night, looking all tired and hungry, as though he was coming from a long trip. The mortuary attendant was shocked to see someone visit the mortuary so late at night and with a cow. Isinta explained that he is coming from a long journey and is fortunate enough to have found shelter. He begs the man to sleep at the mortuary with his cow, who has been his companion throughout his journey. The mortuary attendant initially hesitated, as he thought Isinta wouldn't find it comfortable to sleep in a place where there are dead bodies. But Isinta insisted that he didn't have a place to stay, so the mortuary attendant had to let him stay. Isinta, this time, poisons his cow, and the next morning he started yelling and crying, "My cow, my cow! That cow is my most precious possession. An evil spirit here must have killed my poor cow." The mortuary attendant was shocked at Isinta's lamentations. He asked him what was wrong and how his cow died. And Isinta explained that he woke up and saw his poor cow turning and turning, as if possessed by an evil spirit, and suddenly died. He went on to express how alone he will be without his cow, and that he needed something as a companion to continue his journey. The mortuary attendant felt so sad and confused. What do I do now? One of the bad spirits in my mortuary must have killed your cow. How do I compensate you? The man asked. Isinta was waiting to hear this, he answered. I'm so sad about the death of my cow. He was a great companion to me. How do I continue my journey now? Why don't you give me a companion? Isinta complained. I always have dead bodies here. They can't talk or serve as companions to you, the mortuary attendant said. Isinta tells him not to worry. He can give him a dead baby. He just needs something he can talk to, even if he doesn't respond. And a dead baby will be easier to carry as he continues his journey. The mortuary attendant refuses at first, but because Isinta's cow died in his mortuary, had no other choice but to grant his request. So, Isinta carried the dead baby and walked out of the mortuary smiling. Now, for his final trick. Isinta looks for a family with a fat son and many daughters. He eventually finds one. At night, he visits them and pleads with them to offer him shelter. This family is very generous and felt sorry for him because he narrated a touching story of how his wife died, leaving him with an infant child, and how he has journeyed far, looking for a new town to settle in order to take care of his child. They let him stay and offered him a room, but Isinta insisted on sleeping in the same room with their fat son. He claims he enjoys company and will not mind sleeping with the man's son. The head of the family, thinking Isinta genuinely wanted company, let him stay with his fat son. That night, while everyone was asleep, Isinta carried the dead child and placed him under the armpit of the fat boy. The next morning, Isinta starts wailing, now louder than ever before. The whole family rushed out and saw the dead baby under the armpit of their fat brother. Everyone is shocked. Isinta starts crying and lamenting that the fat boy must have suffocated his child to death. He cries and cries. The family tried to console him and pleaded with him to bring his voice down, but he continues to cry. Confused, the head of the house started apologizing, saying that it must have been a mistake and begs Isinta not to let the entire village know, so they won't tag his son a murderer. Isinta saying that the man is ready to negotiate, saying, "I'm in so much pain. My child is dead. Not that I mean to let everyone know of the abomination that has happened here, but my child is dead and I can't just move on like that. I need something to hold on to. Or produce another child for me." The man desperately asked what he could do to pay for the death of his child. Unknown to him, it was all Isinta's trick to get something from. "You can give me one of your daughters. That way, she can easily bear me another child and make me a happy father," Isinta said, pretending to cry. The head of the house disagreed, but seeing that Isinta kept on crying and may eventually alert the neighbors, he agreed. He asked Isinta to pick one of his daughters, and he picked the most beautiful daughter. Isinta carried his beautiful wife back to his village. On reaching his village with his beautiful human wife, the whole village was astonished. They can't believe that Isinta, who left with a grain of corn, came back with a beautiful human wife. They sang praises for him, as he has done what no ordinary man can. Isinta boasts of his exploits and eventually wins Akaji's ancestral farmland, which he used to start life with his new family. And this is where the story ends. The story of Isinta teaches us the power of cleverness and resourcefulness. It reminds us that sometimes thinking outside the box and using our intelligence can lead to unexpected victories. However, it also serves as a cautionary tale about the consequences of deceit and manipulation. In life, it is essential to be genuine and truthful in our pursuit. While Isinta's clever tricks brought him a short-term gain, they were built on deception and dishonesty, leading to the exploitation of kind individuals. True success and fulfillment come from honesty, hard work, and integrity. If you enjoyed this story and would like to hear more African tales, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. See you in our next story. Bye.